Hello everybody. Wanted to make a quick video on a mistake that I made in the hopes that you guys avoid this. Living in Texas specifically, we don't really have Arctic conditions all that often. So when it comes to winterizing things like a trailer, I have found it's not that critically important. It's not like we live up in the Arctic where it's sub-zero temperatures for weeks on end. So what I generally do when it comes to winterizing my RV and even this trailer is I will empty all the water out, just completely dump everything out of the tank. I'll run the pump to make sure it's dry, at least to an extent. I don't try to burn the pump out, but I do make sure it's not kicking out anything in the way of water. And that usually works. That's usually not a problem. But what you see here is the hot water heater. And there's a reason why it's all torn apart like this, because there is a drain valve that I wasn't aware of, and like most men, I didn't read the instruction manual. I'm sure it's probably in there somewhere. But when you drain the water out of your trailer, you want to hit the drain plug on the hot water heater to dump all the water out of the lines within the heater itself. I didn't do that. So in this last round of ice that we had that lasted for a couple of days, it ended up cracking my hot water heater. And I'll show you how I was able to repair it with the help of my father-in-law. We've been working on this thing for the last couple of days. First thing that happened was, you'll see there's some JB weld here. So there was a crack that had sprung a leak right in here on this connection point. So JB welded that, and everything seemed to be fine there. It solved the leak there. But what we also noticed was that the gasket that sits between these two connection points had been protruding upwards. And so after we JB welded this, we tried it again, and water was squirting out of here. So this was a monumental pain in the butt to get fixed. You have to take these 4 screws, pull them off, and then kind of separate this and reseat the gasket. Now fortunately the gasket wasn't cracked, so when I pulled this apart just barely, the gasket reseated and it was fine. I was able to screw it back on. We've tested it. It doesn't leak out of here anymore. The other problem I have is it did spring a leak up on this coil. So I've got a leak right here that I'm about to repair with some JB weld, and that should solve the leaking problem. How I was able to accomplish this, and I'm sure if you're off grid, you're probably screaming at me right now about doing my own self-maintenance, but you know, it's something that I needed to learn right from being in the field. So the best way to get to these screws, honestly, is to go ahead and unscrew it from here, unscrew from the bottom, take these two and disconnect them, and then you can pull the hot water heater out just enough to be able to reach these 4 screws without destroying your hands. It took us about an hour or 2 to figure that out, but once we did, it was very easy to get these screws on and off. So we were able to test this with literally within 5 minutes of putting it back on. So we're in the process of doing the JB weld here, and then we'll let that set for a day, and that should solve the leaking problems. So just as a reminder for anybody else that's out there that has one of these trailers in a warmer climate, you know, if you're not a believer in putting pink stuff in your trailer, which I'm not, it's a pain in the butt to get all that stuff out year over year. Just dump the water out of your trailer entirely so there's no water in the lines, and then you shouldn't have any issues with freezing. So just be aware, this has its own drain valve, and it looks like this. And this thing actually, when it's all assembled, sits right up in here. So just make sure you unscrew that to drain your water from your water heater. All right, hopefully this has been helpful to y'all out there in the field. If you have this issue, now you'll know kind of how to solve it, and also what to do to try to make sure you never have this issue. So I've learned my lesson, and in the future I'll make sure I drain it out of the hot water heater as part of my process of getting rid of the water in the trailer. So hope you're all doing great. Look forward to making my next video for you. Thanks.